The world is changing fast. The old order, long dominated by Western powers, is crumbling. In its place, new power centers are rising from the ashes in the Middle East, the Balkans, and Eastern Europe. The age of American supremacy is waning, and a turbulent new era of multipolar geopolitics is taking shape. In this video, we examine the shifting alliances, emerging threats, and strategic recalculations that are redrawing the global map. At the center of Middle Eastern power politics sits Israel, armed, resolute, and strategically indispensable to the West. But for Israeli leaders like Benjamin Netanyahu, survival is not just about foreign threats, it's about optics and domestic control. Netanyahu carefully cultivates the image of unshakable American support. His refusal to criticize figures like Donald Trump isn't just political restraint. It's a calculated signal to Israelis that no matter the chaos in Washington, the US-Israel alliance remains ironclad. From the US viewpoint, this relationship is transactional but essential. Washington backs Netanyahu not out of blind loyalty, but because the alternative, a destabilized Israel, could plunge the entire region into chaos. For American strategists, propping up Netanyahu is a lesser evil compared to an unraveling Middle East, but there's a quiet tremor beneath the surface. China is extending its hand to Egypt with military cooperation agreements that hint at a broader realignment. Once a theater of proxy wars and Western intervention, the region now flirts with a new kind of balance, one in which multipolar cooperation might finally temper decades of bloodshed. This emerging axis could redraw not just borders, but expectations of power itself. To the north, Lebanon teeters on the edge. International voices demand that Hezbollah, a powerful political and military force, be expelled from government. But within Lebanon, many fear that such a move would leave the nation naked before a potentially aggressive Israel. For them, Hezbollah isn't just a faction, it's a shield. Meanwhile, Israeli operations in Gaza and the West Bank are viewed by many not as isolated counterterrorism efforts, but as part of a broader, creeping expansionism. Settlements grow, airstrikes continue, and the silence of global powers becomes increasingly deafening. Gone are the days when Washington's word alone could dictate Middle Eastern outcomes. In today's fractured landscape, with powers like Russia and China asserting influence, Western dominance is no longer assured. Multipolarity has arrived, and it doesn't play by the old rules today. Amid the turmoil, another shadow looms: terrorist groups like Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS. Once considered regional threats, these organizations now concern powers far beyond the Middle East. For Russia, HTS represents a direct threat. With a network that stretches across borders and the ability to recruit internationally, these groups have proven capable of destabilizing entire regions. More troubling still, regional actors increasingly suspect that these groups aren't just organic insurgents, but tools manipulated by foreign powers to maintain chaos. The battlefield may be local, but the strings are being pulled from afar. Across the Mediterranean, another geopolitical powder keg simmers, the Balkans. Tensions echo from a century ago, when a regional assassination spiraled into world war. Now efforts are underway to form new military alignments: Croatia, Albania, Kosovo, and possibly Bulgaria, all circling Serbia. The goal? Containment. The fear? Another flashpoint that drags global powers into conflict. But this time, the ground has shifted. While Western policymakers may dust off old playbooks, locals aren't so eager to bleed again. In fact, there's more appetite for cooperation than conflict, more focus on prosperity than proxy wars. Even so, history casts a long shadow, and the region remains a geopolitical chessboard, one that others, especially Russia, are watching closely. For centuries, the British and American empires cast themselves as global guarantors of order, often through war, exploitation, and engineered insecurity. But that era is fading. Emerging coalitions led by Russia, China, and Iran are stepping into the vacuum. Through annual naval drills, energy pacts, and infrastructure projects, these powers are building a parallel system, one that directly challenges Western supremacy. No longer content with playing second fiddle, they are setting their own terms. In response, the US is scrambling to adapt. As China reshapes global trade and dominates supply chains, America is working to reindustrialize, form new bilateral agreements, and recalibrate its foreign policy away from endless wars and towards strategic realignment. In Ukraine, the front lines are no longer just military, they are ideological. The war is grinding toward a conclusion, and many believe the Zelensky government is on borrowed time. Zelensky's increasingly hostile posture toward Trump is interpreted by some as revealing his true loyalties, not to Washington broadly, but to London and its intelligence apparatus. For Western powers, the priority is clear: keep Ukraine in the Western camp at all costs. But Russia has other plans and leverage. Any realistic peace deal will likely require Ukraine to cede territory, a bitter pill the West is reluctant to swallow. Still, the map is changing, and no amount of diplomatic wishful thinking can redraw it back. For Russia, this isn't just about Ukraine's borders. It's about existential security. Moscow sees Western influence in Kiev, especially British, as a gateway for destabilization, a launchpad for smuggling operations, covert interference, and long-term strategic threats. And then there are the US-linked biolabs, real or perceived, spotted across Ukraine, which fuel Russia's narrative of encirclement and biosecurity risk. Faced with these realities, the US is beginning to accept a new truth. The unipolar moment is over. The future lies in cooperation, grudging or not, with rivals like China and Russia. The global chessboard no longer has a single king. The tectonic plates of global power are shifting. Western dominance, once considered permanent, is eroding. In its place, a multipolar world is emerging, unpredictable and unyielding. From the deserts of the Middle East to the frozen trenches of Ukraine, alliances are fracturing, new coalitions are forming, and old empires are being forced to reckon with their legacy. The coming years may bring turbulence, uncertainty, conflict, and realignment, but also the possibility of a world shaped not by imperial dictates, but by regional cooperation, mutual respect, and new balances of power. The global order is being rewritten. The only question that remains: who will hold the pen? If this gave you a new perspective, return the favor, like the video, subscribe, and let's talk in the comments.